Okay, I think this has been long awaited. I'm going to start working with natural materials again on this channel and limit the steel and all that for production work off camera. I'm going to start working with some of these chunks of low quality chert to make woodworking tools and splitting wedges. Splitting wedges is one of the first things I'm going to be making on video. Not this video because I'm going to be digging into my old natural toolkit, but just to give you an idea what I'm going to be doing with the natural tools at first. I'm going to be making axes and wood cutting tools, but they're going to be improvised in some cases. In some cases they're going to look like other implements and not woodworking implements. I'm going to be using only stones by themselves to begin with. No hafted stones, no hafted adzes or axes to begin with. Everything's just going to be the stone itself. All right, just a heads up. So, long awaited, I guess. The natural tools. I'm going to look at all my stuff here. I'm going to start organizing these. I got 2 boxes full of antlers that were donated to me from various people. Jim is one of them, and I've got various pieces. I haven't looked at this stuff in ages. The ones that are in my toolkit. I need to separate out the hammer stones and the antler pieces. This is one of the hammer stones I like to use. It has a nice pointy end on it. Nice little flat spot. Alright, so what is all this stuff here? Yeah, I get comments on the channel and off the channel about splitting wood, and there's like 100 experts on splitting wood, and at least one of them said that using wooden splitting wedges is going to be infinitely easier than using stone splitting wedge. Well, just so I can prove the point that stone works better, I'm going to be using seasoned dried hickory for my woodworking from here on out, except maybe that elm bow that I started. But otherwise, I'm going to be using seasoned hickory. Now, hickory splits easily, right? I think I can get a hold of some really tough elm from the spot where I can harvest the dead standing elm. There's a fallen elm tree. I think I can get some branches off of that. They're just laying on the ground. I think they're seasoned. So elm is even more difficult to split than seasoned hickory. But just so you know, I'm going to be using seasoned hickory. And the reason why that is because you can use just about anything on softwood. You can cut down a pine tree with a brick, in other words. You don't need something sharp. Eventually you'll get through the pine tree with that brick. That's not the point. The point is showing you the most efficient tools. The most efficient tools are the ones that work even with the hardest of woods. Even with the most seasoned woods. Even with the woods that are almost impossible to split. Those are the types of tools I'm interested in demonstrating. I'm not interested in cutting down extremely soft woods like willows and stuff. No. We're going to go for the hard stuff. The difficult stuff, the stuff that will make antler wedges cry, make wood wedges crumple, and stone wedges start to sweat. Okay? That's the kind of stuff I'll be doing. And stone wedges for splitting wood are the only ones that are going to work. Believe me, I've tried. Okay? Okay. What is this? No, it's not a dinosaur turd. This is a piece of, or a lump of asphaltum mixed with gum base. Yeah, I think that's what that is. This is hafting glue, natural hafting glue. So I'll be using some of this. It's a pain in the butt to use, but you know, because asphaltum bubbles up when you heat it. Very bubbly. All right, what is this? All right, this is a modern hafting glue because this is actual asphalt tar, the kind that they use for roads. A friend of mine is a manager at an asphalt plant, so he can get this stuff. And I mixed it with talc powder to give it some firmness, because this stuff flows even when it's um, warm, not necessarily hot. And that's good for roads because it'll stay flexible. But for hafting, you've got to mix it with something to keep it from flowing so easily, because your points will become misaligned if you depend on the glue. Just glue by itself, which a lot of the old stuff was dependent upon. If that's the case, your tips and all that will become misaligned. Your stone hafted points will become misaligned with temperature changes. When it gets warmer, it'll start to drift. That's what this does. Now, the natural asphaltum, this here, I got this in powdered form, the asphaltum in powdered form, because it's used to produce inks, right? And you can mine it like coal. It's not from the ocean where it's all gooey. No, this particular type of asphaltum is mined from the ground, and it comes out like coal, but they grind it down to a powder so they can use it. But it melts, you can melt it. So I melted, I mixed it with gum base, which is like, in this case, it's a chicle type gum base, but you can also mix it with a latex gum base, and it makes it more manageable, less bubbly, more sticky. Believe it or not, asphaltum is not that sticky. You need something to make it more sticky. So that's what that is. I do have pine pitch glue, but I don't like using it other than as a filler and not as an adhesive. And we'll get into that later. All right, so we got different kinds of antlers. These are antlers of various types. Elk and deer. I got plenty of white-tailed deer now. White-tailed deer antler. I'm not going to use moose too much anymore. Moose is kind of brittle. I do break the moose antlers, and what I mean by breaking them is I split them. They get split after a while, but these I've dressed them up recently. Some of them do crack after a while, just from age. That's not from force. But I had split off some of this, so I lost quite a bit off of that. This is part of the skull on the base of the moose antler. That's what you want. You're basically knapping with bone in that case, right? But the bone is very dense. I knap with this part of the antler as well. Okay. So these are my moose ones. Let's see. I've got, where's my big piece of axis deer antler. Here it is. I passed it up real quick. This is axis deer, which means it only has a little bit of only a little bitty pith, and the rest is solid. It's amazing stuff. It's an exotic deer from India, and it has, I think, the best antlers in the world for what we do. Other than whitetail. Whitetail is pretty darn good too. And we can get it here easily in the United States. All right, so here is elk antler. I did use it for a billet. For those of you who say it's too soft, well, I proved that wrong. All right. I got a bunch of other pads. Let's see. Bunches of hammer stones. Yep. All right, so I'm pretty much, I can go down to about that size of hammer stones. No one was using little small hammer stones before I started using them. Maybe a few guys. They got kind of popular after a while. I like small hammer stones. So I got this one. This is a chert hammerstone. Now this I'll only use when there's a stubborn spot. And there's probably going to be stubborn spots on these guys. On these tools I'll be reducing. Oh, this is a sandstone. Luckily we got sandstone here in Vermont, so I needed a bunch more. You can make other kinds of tools for abrading with sandstones. Using them as hammer stones is okay, but they break up real easy, especially when you use this stuff. Nasty stuff. And like wood, like the nasty wood, seasoned nasty hard wood, I'm going to use nasty stone. So what do I need to use? I need to use extremely tough hammer stones, and I need to use extremely tough splitting wedges made of stone with sharp tips and edges so that it'll split, not only split apart the fibers, but some of the fibers interlock, and you've got these little connectors in between. You got to split through those connectors down inside the split. What do you call those? Those tear outs or whatever in between. You know, you can't always, you don't have an axe. If you have a stone axe, it's not going to fit down in the split to cut away all those little interlockers inside the wood when you're trying to split it. So you need a stone edge when you start splitting down there to cut through some of that stuff. And wood's not going to do it. Antler can do it, but it doesn't like doing it. It fusses and breaks. Ooh, nice pressure flaker. Ah, yes, one of my old percussion flakers. This is indirect percussion flaker, just composite. Right? Put that behind my knee. I can put like just the antler by itself behind my knee if it's long enough, like this spike elk antler. I can put this behind my knee. But if I can't, if these get too short, like this got really short, I just hollow out that part, just put in a piece of wood, and there you go. Friction fit. Yeah. But I don't like them to be long, of course. I never use a really long one. This can be used as an ishi stick as well. Although I like using composite ishi sticks, you know, with the big handles and not little handles. Where is it? I don't have it? Oh yeah, I do. All right. I like thick handles on my ishi sticks. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'll make some that I can, well, I'll make some with stone tools. How's that? I'll make tools for knapping with the stones. Okay, and the stones that I will use to make these composites will be knapped with hammerstone and not with these composites. Right? Because I don't want to catch 22. I don't want to say, yeah, I got this special tool here that I can make knapping tools with. I made it with a special knapping tool. Well, where'd you get the knapping tool to make the stone tool to make the knapping tool? No. So I'll make these special tools for woodworking, these delicate things with hammerstones. Okay. Everyone knows where to get hammerstones. We got the, this is an old one. All right, so yeah, I got a bunch of stuff. This one is similar to a stone that I have as an artifact that was found at the Native American site. For some reason, they collected stones that look like this, and I don't know if this is broken off. They collected these whole ones. You find a bunch of these, at least on the campsite that I have artifacts from. You find a bunch of these, but whole. I guess they were used for pounding or something, right? But they easily break if you start using them for stuff that's difficult. So I kind of ground down these flat areas so I can use them as these swiping hammerstones. They don't work that great because they split. Because I work on what? I work on nasty stuff. I don't work on easy stones. So they break. They break. All right? All right, so let's see what else. Oh yeah, I use this for abrading. There's a lot of these in Vermont, these little nodules of quartzite, and you just break them in half and they can be abrading stones for abrading the edges. I can use something, this is a kind of a lava type rock. It's like a sandstone feel to it, but it's volcanic, I think, because it's very lightweight. It's very porous. And it's good for abrading. It's one of my best abrading stones, but it wears down quickly. Why? Because I use nasty stuff. I always have to specify that. Why do your tools break, man? Why do they wear down so fast? Why do you go through all this stuff? Why do you use so much antler? Why? Because you know why. All right. Yeah, whitetail billet with a flat spot. Yeah. This is the skull side. Yeah, so it's more dense on the skull side, but I still break them. I still do that stuff. So there's a lot of maintenance. Luckily, I've got my little cheater grinder back there. That thing right there. Yeah. Yep, sorry. I'm not going to show it on film that I cheat. I'm going to try to repair these with, where is it? With my abrading stones. Abrading stone. This face is excellent for abrading. I'm going to do that on video. Just so you can see how long it takes. Just so I can torture you. Because you're going to see in real time how long it takes to repair these things. When you're flint knapping. So yeah, I'll have great fun torturing you with long periods of tool maintenance. Yeah. All right. Because I don't care anymore. I don't care. Another one of these cool little hammerstone things that has little points on them. This is a piece of quartzite. River tumbled, I suppose, but it has these little lumps on it that I can use to strike off little bitty flakes, which is really, really cool. Axis deer antler. I was using this in some of my latest videos. I remember that one. Yeah, the obligatory band-aids. Which reminds me, there are ways to bandage yourself with natural materials too. I might get into that stuff, but I don't know. I don't even know what some of this stuff is. Oh, this is a charm stone, atlatl charm stone. These are cool. And there's a lot of these around here too. In Vermont, there's a lot of little stones just like this, various colors, mostly yellows and whites, but I think I saw some oranges and some purples and stuff. I'm going to gather a bunch of these. Charm stones. You tie them onto stuff. Well, this is a real hammerstone. See? Real hammerstone. Now look at the, let's look at the wear on it. You can see the wear on these ends. I don't think it was a hammerstone used for flint knapping, right? It was probably used for smashing plant material. But there's a braided smooth spot here and an abraded smooth spot here. So it probably doubled as a mono, like this, but it also has hammerings and telltale signs of, right, especially right there, of being used to smash, probably not flint or chert, but something. And then used also as a mono. Both here, it's very smooth there, and down at the bottom. So it's a multi-tool. It gives us a clue on what was the mindset. I think the mindset was multi-tools. Oh, excuse me while I move some stuff out of the way. The mindset was multi-tools. A tool be able to be used for more than one thing. Handles to be used to haft more than one kind of point. That sort of thing. Alright, so what was I going to use these for? I didn't explain these, right? These are live oak. They were going to be knife handles. I do have live oak splitting wedges. Live oak makes excellent splitting wedges, but it doesn't work as good as stone on the nasty stuff. Okay, this is what I'm going to be using, and it's going to take as long as it takes. I don't care. This is a piece of live oak. This is a wood billet that I've never used. I might start using it. But that's how it starts out. I think I might have battered it a little bit. But live oak is one of the most dense woods. It's more dense and stronger than dogwoods. Okay? This one is, I did use this in the past. This one is a wood billet of Texas ebony, which is another extremely hardwood. It's from the subtropic area of Texas, South Texas. It's subtropical there in South Texas, so that this grows into Mexico extensively, but it does encroach into Texas. So I was lucky enough to pick this up as a trimmed tree, right? So I just cut this little piece out of the heartwood. The sapwood is lighter than the heartwood. The heartwood is the hard stuff, and you can see the battering, pretty typical of using it as a billet on either side. Does it work well? Yep, works well on easy stuff, but does it work well on the nasty stuff? Sometimes, but most of the time, no. You're going to ruin it on the nasty stuff. Okay, I've got some seasoned hickory blanks here for, I guess I'll demonstrate some stuff on video. I cut them with the bandsaw. I was going to make tool handles out of these, but they got all wonky. When I was cutting, I didn't really care about cutting straight on these. There were some knots I was trying to avoid and areas that were, yeah, see these little knots and stuff. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna split these out from I have larger pieces in this. What I'm gonna do is, I think the first video is I'm just gonna start splitting out some staves, short staves, not for bows but for other tools, out of this, the remainder of this piece, which is about 2 feet long or 3 feet long. Okay. Oh, I'm going to be modifying this tool here, because this edge is nice. This edge here, this edge, which has a profile more common to actual stone axes, does not work well. Okay, this angle here, which is more typical of what you see in the archaeological record for stone quote-unquote axes, does not work well to chop wood. It works, like I said, you can chop down a pine tree with a brick. It works, but this works much better, much faster. I would say twice as fast on tough wood. This angle here. And if I can get it even better, if I can find a really tough piece with a much better angle that'll hold up, I'll use that. This one I use for splitting mainly on smaller pieces. I don't want to mess this up by chopping. So I'm using it for splitting right now, but if I can find a really tough piece of wood, a tough piece of stone with a good thin edge, I'm going to develop it into an axe for wood cutting. What did they use these for? The ones that you see in the archaeological record? What did they use these for then, if they're not chopping wood with it? If it doesn't work that well, what are you doing? Did you not sharpen it? Maybe you need to sharpen it and make it smooth, not so bumpy like this. Maybe you need to haft it so you can swing faster. Maybe you need to make it out of a different kind of stone. It's not so crumbly on the edge. Like this is kind of crumbly. On and on and on and on. To support the idea that these were used to cut wood. Well, maybe they were not used to cut wood. Well, what were they used for then? There we go. What were they used for? Well, I have a theory that many of these were used for warfare. Yeah. It's very good for cracking skulls and bones, these edges. For wood, especially on the nasty stuff, it doesn't work. Not at all. It just crushes its way through. It doesn't really work if you want to save time and energy. Okay? Especially when you can just flip it over and you got a better edge. You can just look around on the stones that come off of these nodules that you're trying to get flakes from, and you have edges that are much better for cutting cutting wood. Much better stone edges for cutting wood than you see on these axes that are either polished and ground and polished or knapped. Okay, most of these are ground and polished, and the edges are like this. They're kind of fat. Okay. So yeah, I'll be doing that. I'll be using thick, fat-edged axes for cutting wood, but you'll see on the hickory. Now you want to try it yourself. These things just bounce right off. They bounce right off this stuff. And you might say, well, they didn't use green. They didn't use seasoned wood. What are you talking about? It's all green. Only green, right? They only use green, very easy to work wood, right? All the time. That's it. And they spend hours and hours and hours grinding these stones to work easy wood. Now think about this for a second. Does that make sense? When you can just pick up a big old flake and start working the easy wood. Let's think about that. How many hours does it take to make one of those polished stone axes or celts or those little things? How long does that take? It could take days. By the time that you finish one of those stone axes, you can already have, a month's worth of firewood stacked up that you broke yourself just by finding a fork in a tree and between two trees, getting a bunch of firewood and just breaking it in the fork. You're not having to cut it up and just use branches for firewood. You can, collect a month's worth of firewood by the time you finish a little celt. And then someone says, I want one, so you make another one. When are you making the firewood? I'm exaggerating somewhat, yes. But you get the idea. But if they're used for self-defense or defense against predators, like if you're being attacked by a wolf, or you're trying to, get wolves away from something that they just killed, and you're attacking the predators to get them away from a kill so you can scavenge the kill, you're going to need weapons that'll crush skulls and bones. Yeah, missile weapons, sure. Yeah, you use missile weapons too. But there's some predators that do not respond to being missiled, to have missiles thrown at them. They get ticked off. They don't leave. All right. So there you go. That's the brief introduction of what I'm going to do. I've got a lot more tools. I've got a lot more natural materials. I don't know where they went. But anyway, that's my basic kit. Not my basic kit. That's my immediate go-to box. So I need to develop a basic kit. Again, I have done it in the past, but it gets all thrown in together. And I'll make little bitty hand axes. I like this design. Right? This is an improvised design. This is not in the archaeological record as far as I know. But I have seen some stuff similar to this, and they're saying that these are farming implements for digging into earth and cutting roots and that sort of thing, and hafted to a big old stick or something, like a forked, what do you call it? I'll show you. They're hafted to these forked sticks and then used for farming. Well, I'm thinking they're used. I'm going to be using them as hand axes. Now, when you think of a hand axe, you're thinking mostly something like this, where you have your hand on top here and then do this. Yeah, that's also a hand axe. I'll be making some of those too. And I'll show you the different uses of those. I was reading on hand axes the other day, a couple days ago, when I had some time off. This was during the auction. We're waiting for it to end. And I was reading them, and scientists still do not know exactly what hand axes were used for. These really old ones, like 1.5 million year old hand axes, they were used for millions of years, or over 1 million years. And they still don't know exactly what they're used for. So I'll be going into different uses for those. That's a multi-tool. There's a theory that it's a multi-tool, but there's also theories that they were specialized because they're made differently in different areas. Like some are sharp all the way around, some are only sharp at the tip, some are not sharp on the tip and only sharp on the back. Some of them are dull and sharp, and some are random, some are very careful. It's all mixed up. They don't know what they're used for. Yeah, probably some are specialized, but I think most of them are multi-tools. Okay, so I think that's it. I've already rambled on enough, but it gives me a kind of a starting point for the rest of these upcoming videos. All right, that's it.